Welcome to another episode of Fix My Agency. I am Jordan Platten, an agency owner at $250,000 a month. Chris is the owner of Catalyst at $15,000 a month. And today we're going to go through building a roadmap on helping Chris achieve his goals in his business, analyzing what is going well right now, but most importantly, what isn't going so well, so we can break through those bottlenecks. Chris, great to have you here with me. I know you've prepared a presentation for us to bring us all up to speed. So
yeah, appreciate it, Jordan. Cheers. Good to be here. Before we get into it, I just wanted to show you something that I found when I was moving flats last summer. It's your 15-minute agency book that I bought. Yeah, I bought it back in about 2020. And I couldn't believe I still had it, to be fair.
That's awesome. Absolute throwback. Well, let's today set the goal of surpassing all the value you got from that book.
Yeah, 100%. All right,
nice, let's get into the deck. Let's see what we got.
Okay, so agency's called Catalyst Marketing. We're a performance marketing partner for local service businesses. And the area of where we like to specialize and where we're focused on local leaders that are trying to grow regional. So they normally have like multiple clinics or showrooms or practices, something like that. Our core service is performance marketing, of course. So a lot of people really are sign up with SEO, pay-per-clicks, Google Ads, paid social on Meta or LinkedIn, a little bit on TikTok as well. And then email marketing, our core 4 services that most people go for. Currently at 13K monthly revenue. That fluctuates a little bit if we get different projects on, but that's been pretty consistent now for a good 12 or 18 months. But ideally, we'd like to scale it up now to 30K a month would be really strong position for us to hit. So in terms of the goal, I think within the next 12 months, I would like to have at least 1, maybe 2 full-time account managers on, because I think that's where a lot of the bottlenecks are in terms of my time being spent on the client communication side of things and the strategy. And then ideally an SDR. I think that's a little bit of a bonus there, but I think that would really help things move in.
What's the team structure like at the moment? How many people have you got in the team?
So we've actually scaled back over the last 12 months. We did have 4 of us on at one point, but scale back to just me and just using contractors. So we've got 5 contractors who are on part-time at the moment.
And what are those contractors doing?
So we've got one for each core delivery service. We've got one for email, SEO, paid ads, and then content as well, and paid social.
Okay, cool. You're spreading yourself very thin at the moment, doing a lot of different things.
Yeah, we used to do a lot more. So in my head, this is kind of scaled back a little bit already.
We'll get into it. I'd like to just get a clearer picture and then we'll get into that.
So yeah, and then lifestyle goal, I think stepping back from the client communication side of things would be what I'd want to do less of in the business and actually focusing a little bit more time freedom, I suppose.
Nice.
So our current clients, a bit of a mixed bag at the moment, but it is good overall. Pretty much like 95% of our clients are local service businesses that we want to be working with. We've got a few other ones that are a little bit like national based, a little bit different, but the majority of them are where we're focusing. And a lot of them are leaders in their local market. So like I said, we kind of want people who are at the top of their game, ambitious and looking to scale up. But we do still have some of those slightly smaller clients on that are just happy to stay at the same pace and just keep ticking over with getting leads on, essentially. As I said, they're all local service based. So we're talking like showrooms, clinics, practices, garden room companies, construction, home improvement, things like this. The company's size and revenue does range quite a bit. So we've got some of those at the lower end, which are like around 5-6 employees doing 300, 500K a year. And then we've got those ones which are a little bit closer to my ICP, which are 20, 25 employees and doing $1 million plus, 2 million, 3 million. The primary pain point with most of our clients is that they don't have a marketing team on at the moment, and they've probably relied on word of mouth quite a lot. In terms of our ICP, so it's very much the same in terms of who they are, but they're just kind of at the higher end of the market. So they might be a kitchen showroom with 3 locations rather than just 1, or a dental practice that serves multiple counties, anything like that. But the industry is very much the same who we want to be focusing on. And then that company size is, again, just an elevated version of what we're working with. So ideally, they'd have 15 to 40 employees on, and they're doing at least £1 million up to 5 million, and maybe a bit more as well. The primary pain point for them would be just needing more high quality leads and more consistent leads. And so they're able to take on some of the national or corporate giants like in their region.
So what we're really talking about here is just the more upmarket niche that you're in right now. What are you currently doing in order to try and retain or get those more upmarket clients?
I've been working on some lead gen pieces with just started running ads. I've got some videos made in November, and I've just started running those as of start of Jan. And then more with my outbound, just spending a lot more time on outbound, doing it more manually, putting a lot more effort into what we're actually sending over and trying to give like some value before we actually have a conversation.
Okay, cool. I know we're going to go into some of the kind of sales engines, so I won't get ahead of myself. We can move on for now.
So yeah, we like to say the main problem that we solve is like a point of contact for strategy, execution and communication. We pitch ourselves as this partner. So we kind of help with that strategy, not just executing on the services that we say that we deliver on, but then talking about, okay, what's coming next? What worked? What can we do to kind of help you convert more or convert more of our leads into sales? How's that planning? Especially with those bigger like regional clients that have like multiple showrooms. One might be performing better than the other. So what can we do to kind of build a campaign there for brand awareness? And yeah, we like to think we go a bit deeper than just deliver leads, just tick boxes when it comes to the services.
Makes sense.
And then our revenue. So all of our clients are on retainers. Very rarely do we have a project-based one. And then in terms of the upsells, it's very much our core services. So if somebody comes on for SEO and that starts working well, we'll then kind of push and say, look, let's do some paid ads. Let's try a bit of email marketing. And then our average client is around about £1,000 a month.
Okay. What is the minimum and what's the maximum that you've got?
So the minimum at the moment would be about 750, and then the maximum is 2,000.
Okay. Can you run me through what you're doing for that £750 a month client?
That will be just SEO.
Just SEO.
Yeah,
Okay.
so just SEO.
And then the 2,000 a month client, like what are you doing for them?
So that's SEO, Google Ads, and we do a bit of email marketing with them as well.
And so then how are you pricing that? Each individual service got its own individual price?
No, it doesn't have its own price. Usually it's done on value. Obviously, if we're trying to, if people are working with us on multiple services, then we do offer a bit of discount there. But it's usually we'll scope out the work in terms of the amount of hours I think we're going to need to see success, and then do it from that.
Okay, fine. We can dig into this, but one of the biggest problems here is pricing. Like for your ICP, if you've got minimum 30k a month revenue, really the clients you're working with up to 300k a month, to have an average client value of £1,000, it's unsustainable to grow an agency at that level with the amount of services that you're offering, which is why you're kind of spread thin across these multiple part-time contractors who, as you probably experienced, are never as in it, and they don't have the full energy of someone that's involved in your team because they're working with lots of other people. And so the service then never actually becomes exceptional either, because you're maybe one or two of those subcontractors are brilliant. But yeah, out of interest, let's say you've got that $2,000 client, like how much is it costing you to fulfill the service for them?
We run on about a 65-70% profit margin, so it'd be close to around about 650, 750 to execute on that.
60% is a very good profit margin. It's actually what I would actually genuinely say it's too high. And you've got wiggle room there. Where are you then you're outsourcing to presumably India, South Africa, Philippines, South America?
South Africa and Europe, but we also have a lot of UK based. Three of our freelancers that we work with, contractors, are UK based.
Let's get into the sales engine. Let's get a clear picture of the numbers, and then let's just break all this down so I've got a clear picture.
So the sales engine, as you can see, there's a fair bit of blank bits here. So I think we've basically been stagnant for the last 12 months. So like I said, the story was that we had a few of us on board. We're doing a lot more, and then we've kind of scaled this back. And the whole point of working with contractors was because I wanted to work with people who were at the top of their game rather than the people that we held on at the time. Although they were great, I had them on from like an apprenticeship scheme, and I just didn't have the time to train them. They were just a bottleneck for me in terms of like, we weren't able to execute at the level that I wanted to on the performance. So I've kind of been fixing that for the last like 8 months or so, which is why the sales engine has taken a real backseat in terms of like the calls and the show rate. I don't really have any figures on that because it's not really been a focus. I kind of get those myself from word of mouth or networking. So it's quite inconsistent. Our primary channels would be outbound. So in terms of just like cold call in or email, if I see somebody local that I think we could work with, or if we've got a good case study, I'll normally do that. But again, I haven't been that consistent with it over the last 12 months. We did start paid ads.
Why do you think that is?
It's just because when we had these employees on, I'd spend so much time trying to train them to make sure that we could execute on the actual work that I would then put the sales to the to the side, basically, and not put the time in for it.
Well, why do you think it's taken 8 months to transition from the team to this new setup, and then only now think about reintroducing sales into the business?
I was quite content where we were at. I was quite happy just to keep it going. I was really focused on just making sure that service delivery was just nailed down, and I wanted to see it, and it took a few months for us to get there with that, really.
I appreciate your honesty there. It doesn't take 8 months to do that. You could do that in 1, maybe 2. And so there's got to be a little bit of contentment there. How do you feel now? Like, what's changed now to say, okay, we don't want to stay at 13K, we now want to get to that 30K a month goal?
Or, if we go back to that book that I showed you, when I got that, it was kind of like, okay, I want to get to the 10K a month. And that was kind of always the goal. It always has been in the industry. I think when I got there, I was like, perfect, this is great. This is where I wanted to be. And then recently, as I've just got a bit older, I turned 30 at the end of last year, I just start thinking, okay, this has gone on for quite a while now. This isn't just something I could do forever. I want to grow this. I want to make it more. I want to make it bigger. I've just got more ambitious in myself over the last 12 months or so.
Fine. And you feel personally motivated to get onto the sales side of things and like build the acquisition systems you need?
Yeah, much more so.
Okay. When you say like the channel that's brought the most clients has been calls and email, do you have any data on how many emails it takes to sign a client or how many calls it's taken to sign a client?
No, because it's always been something I've done manually. We've used like Instantly before, just didn't see much success with it at all. And I think what we were doing was just too generic. So it ended up just me being ad hoc, sort of going through Apollo and really picking out, or even just going through Google and just trying to find local companies that I could start working with and making sure I had a good reason to reach out for them.
Okay, fine. And then Meta ads have been running since January. What's the situation with those? How's performance initially?
Yeah, going really well, to be fair. So far, we've spent £900 or so just under £1,000. Have generated 22 leads and 9 of them qualified, and 4 of them look like they might be going ahead. They're not the best quality clients yet. They're a little bit smaller than I was hoping for, but it's promising so far.
Cool. What was the cost per qualified lead then, roughly? Or cost per lead, and then
So I think the cost per lead when I saw it was around about £40 per lead. So that'd make the qualified one, a little bit higher, around about £120 a lead, I think.
All right. Fine. And then let's move on to the final numbers.
Currently profit margin 65%. Our CAC, again, I don't really know this just because we don't have like the sales data, but lifetime value is pretty high. So it's around about 36K, I'd say. A lot of the clients that we work with ended up staying on for quite a long time. So for example, I'm still working with our first client from about 4.5 years ago. In terms of monthly marketing spend of what we're spending on ourselves, it's about 1.5K. And then annual ad spend, I think I got this confused, what we're running for clients is probably about 400K. But for ourselves, it's much lower.
When you say LTV is probably about 36K, do you have that number? Did you calculate that number properly, or have you got that number tracked somewhere, or is that like speculation?
Speculation, that is not tracked.
Okay, do you know what your churn rate is? Like how many clients, if you got 10 clients this month, how many you would lose next month on average over the course of a year?
I don't have a churn rate, but I'd say it's probably about 10 to 15%. Okay.
So it's impossible that your LTV is 36K. Because 36K LTV would be insane. That would be that's an exceptionally high LTV. On a 1K service, basically what you're saying is your average client stays with us for 36 months, which I presume isn't the case at the moment. If it's 10% churn rate, then you're churning all of your clients every 10 months. So it could only be a 10K LTV.
Right, I see what you mean.
Is that a fair assumption, or have I got something wrong?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think I was thinking about our average client, about the ones that we've got now, about 12, 15 clients on at the moment. About 8 of them have been with us for 3 years or longer.
Have you got anything else to show me, or are you happy for me to share my screen and get into some bits here?
Yeah, I think that's all good from me.
I think this is a really, really simple case, and I think that you've got a really, really good foundation, and it's obviously because you've been in the space for a long time. Like you being in the space for the long time is both a blessing and a curse for you, because it's a blessing because it means you've got a depth of experience now to deliver a good service. You know what good is. You've been exposed for a long time. It's a curse because, that complacency comes in, it's very easy to stay stagnant and so on and so forth. In your position, the health, like the numbers, like the churn rate isn't an issue at all. Like if you are around 10%, that's pretty healthy. Normally we say you benchmark an agency at 7.5, and then you're doing a really good job. 7.5, just for context, is what a VC firm or a big merger and acquisition company would look to acquire an agency at. So 7.5 is like, this is really good. This is the kind of agency that would get bought for like, let's say, a 6 times multiple on EBITDA. And so in your position, you're not far off that if that number is correct. I say if that number is correct, and I think that's probably the main thing that comes up here, is you just have no clarity over any of your numbers. There's a lot of like, I think this, I believe it's about this, but correct me if I'm wrong, there's no centralized spreadsheet or system that's actually tracking these numbers in the business, is there?
No, you're 100% right, yeah.
I think that is the cascade to everything. I wouldn't even bother looking at anything else until we solve that as the number one thing. Of course, not turning off your ads, not turning off your acquisition, but the focus has got to be from here on, from next week onwards, from today onwards, let's get clarity over all of the numbers in all areas of the business. I'm going to show you this right now. I won't get stuck on this and educating you on this, but I'm going to send you this over. And so this is essentially a P&L. So a P&L being a profit and loss, like your accountants would usually work off this, but also ties together all of your performance KPIs. So your actual profit margin, your employee turnover, your client profitability from individual clients and so on and so forth, your LTV, your CAC, your conversion rate, all of this stuff, cost per, outreaches to acquire a customer, and just basically every single number inside of the business so you can get a deep understanding. Now, are you going to fill in absolutely all of this? No, I don't recommend you to do so. You're going to get on top of the performance KPIs. But what I actually recommend you doing is working with a fractional CFO in order to help you manage this. I'm going to introduce you personally to our fractional CFO. It's incredibly cost effective to do this. You're only going to need like maybe 2 hours at a maximum per month. And we can talk about behind the scenes on what that looks like. I don't get anything for that. I'll make that intro, but that is probably the highest leverage thing that you could do right now in your business, is get complete clarity over the numbers so you actually can have some confidence that you're doing the right thing. And would it be fair to say that part of the reason why over the past 8 to 12 months you've remained stagnant is because you don't really have confidence on what is and what isn't working?
Yeah, I'd say it's fair to say, definitely.
And so I think that's the most important thing to start off with, is many agency owners will, we're very busy in service delivery, we get very stuck in operations and so on. And many agencies will stay in that position and put off, client acquisition because they're not sure whether email's the right thing or calls are the right thing or ads are the right thing. And until we have a report every single month that tells us this is exactly what is bringing us the majority of clients, then it's hard to have the confidence to focus our time. So like, obviously we need to have a very clear understanding of, we want to understand that churn rate. You want to understand that customer acquisition cost. We want to understand the LTV. The single most important numbers in any agency business is CAC over LTV ratio. I noticed when I looked at the presentation, we didn't have that number there, so I got rid of it. And that is simply the relationship between how much money we are making over a lifetime with a client and how much money we're spending to acquire a client. You just told me that you're getting £120 all cost per qualified lead. That's really healthy. And so, your CAC is going to be under $1,000 for that. And if your churn rate is 10%, then you have a LTV of around £10,000. That means you have a 10-to-1 LTV to CAC ratio, which is really, really healthy. But we want to confirm that to know it is. So you're getting a 10 times return on investment over the lifetime of the clients, which means if that is true, you've got a very, very scalable agency with paid ads. And that's obviously because you've managed to get the service delivery nailed down. And so broadly speaking, I think like the best thing that you could do, throw shit at the wall again for a little bit, run the ads, do the emails, do the calls, but track everything properly. And so you can actually say for certainty, well, this is the strategy that's getting me the results. You've been so kind of off the gas, in no other better way of saying it, for such a long time, that you kind of don't know what that is again. And it sounds to me like you don't have that clarity. And if you do focus on one thing, you're going to be second guessing and thinking, is that actually going to be better? There's no value at all in you doing all of them at all, because you can, from going from 0 to 10, do a multitude of things to figure out what works. Going from 10 to 100K a month is all about doing one acquisition strategy and doing it really well. Anything else is just fragmenting your time in an already busy, stressful environment.
Yeah, that sounds spot on. Yeah. 100%.
Cool. Okay. Well, I'm at that to month one, which is like, throw shit at the walls. Really, that's what we're really talking about. And I've put a quick win here, the data tracker. I'll put a link to that. I will make an intro over WhatsApp to Damien as well and run you through what that looks like. Damien will essentially act as kind of a mid between your accounting function. Mm-hmm. It's going to cost you less per month to deliver probably half the cost you pay for one of your subcontractors on one client. So it's well worth doing that. And so we've got agency data tracker. And then make sure you track all the acquisition numbers as well. So be that ads, be that calls, be that emails. Just you've got to understand which of those is working, and then analyze end of month and focus on just one. So like all eggs in one basket. My guess is ads is going to be the most fruitful thing for you. And there is going to be something else you can do that I would recommend as a quick win that's going to help you move more and more up market. And that is get event calendar filled with one event per quarter minimum. Do you attend industry events?
No, none. Not really.
Okay. So events have been such an unlock, and I find a massive unlock for everyone in our various, especially in elite, with like B2B, like more established agencies. Attending one event a minimum per quarter, some people attend one a month, is such an easy way for you to get around the much more upmarket people in the industry. You're not always going to be around the founder, but sometimes you'll be around the CMO, the marketing director, and so on. And it's very, very rare we attend an event without having at least one or two clients in the pipeline off the back of it. And so we just want to use it as an example to speak to as many people as possible. If you can allocate some budget to get a VIP ticket so you're in the right circles at events. It's a little bit trickier with you because you're a little bit more fragmented across multiple niches. And so, I would be thinking about how you can refine that over time for sure. But maybe there are some specific niches within the broad sector that you operate in that you'll get the best results for. Out of interest, are there any of those that come to mind? Do you have specific niches within the broad spectrum of clients that you work with that you're getting the best results for?
Yeah, I'd say KBB is quite a big one for us. So kitchen, bedroom, bathroom showrooms. It's definitely a strong one.
Okay. Is there any reason why you decided to stay broad and not reach out to, or not narrow down and niche down at all?
Well, this is what I mean. We were broader, so this feels like it's more niche down. I knew that we were good and we were getting our best results with local-based things, so local ads, local SEO. And I thought, okay, let's try and niche down into like local marketing, but keep the industries broad.
But your niche is essentially local leaders. Is effectively how we're categorizing that.
Yes, yeah.
So that in itself is a niche. It's a sub-niche within a broader niche. I think a lot of people think that being niche means you only work with one industry. At us as an agency in Affluent.co, we're very broad. We focus specifically on health brands, health conscious brands, and those are the brands within e-commerce that we work with. But that gives us a wide variety. We have supplements, we've got fitness products, we've got fitness clothing, we have all sorts of different companies. We have hair shampoo, which is good for female pattern hair loss. And so there's all sorts of different things that come under that category, but we're still niche down into, a very specific defined ICP. So I don't see any problem with that. I think one of the biggest problems that I see is the fact that you have a very low average client value for way too much. So you feel like you've gone, you've niched down and you've got things relatively streamlined. But from the outside, offering email, SEO, paid ads, content. And so doing that for, an average client value of $1,000 is insane. It's going to be very unsustainable to do that. And so what I would recommend doing is segmenting out these services so you actually have predefined values for each of them. Whether that's creating a spreadsheet so our email service is X amount per month, our SEO service is X amount per month, it's ads. You have an algorithm that you can look into. You have a board of services, and that is what makes up your packages. I would not be in a place where you are, you got your $2,000 client that you said, and I asked you, okay, what makes up that service and how do you come to $2,000? Well, it's email, it's SEO, it was Google ads. Very complimentary service. It makes sense as a package. But email, Google, and SEO for £2,000 a month is crazy. And if you're looking to move more up market, I'll be thinking, how can we get the average client value to £2,000 as quickly as possible, basically? And I think that'll come quite easy when you have a very firm value and price attached to each of the services you offer, because you're no longer in this place where you're predicting value and instead it's just, it is what it is. This is how much we charge. And then you have a goal to increase the value of each of those individual services over time. Have you tried to do that?
No, I have not. I've not looked into that.
Do you have any resistance to doing that?
Not at all. Not at all. It makes total sense.
So we've gone through this ourselves over time. Like as an agency, we used to offer just Facebook ads, and then we started offering email marketing, and we did content, and and then we went back just to Facebook ads and so on, and we did landing pages. Now, today, we've kind of come back to a place where we are a little bit more broad, but it's all complementary. And so we offer Facebook ads, we offer content, first and foremost, performance content. We do CRO like email, and we also do landing pages. But each of those services have a designated value, and it's regardless of the client that we're working with. We charge on a per client basis, sure, but they're all the retainer that they pay is specific to the services that they're getting, not specific to the business that they are in. And that allows us to have an average monthly client value of £5,000 per month, which means our LTV is really strong. Now, of course, we're working with clients that are making millions on a monthly basis, but if you're trying to work towards that place where you're working with those guys, you've got to be priced appropriately, or they just won't see the value in your agency. And the bigger businesses will want you to be able to break down the cost of each of those services.
Yeah, no, of course, that makes sense.
Okay.
How would you, in my case, I suppose, like I said, sometimes the size varies in terms of like multi-showrooms. Some might have 4 or 5, some might just have 1. How do you then price it? Because obviously the scope of work changes a little bit there. That's, I suppose, my only hesitation with why I haven't done it before is sometimes it's very bespoke.
Why is it bespoke?
So if we're running Google ads for one showroom, for example, then it's just basically like 1 or 2 campaigns. Whereas if we're doing it for a number of separate showrooms, there'll be 5 times the amount of campaigns.
Yeah, and so we would just combat that with a percentage of ad spend. And so any of your performance clients, you really want to have a percentage of ad spend retainer on there as well. So you've got your retainer plus a percentage of ad spend, and then it removes the complexity of, okay, we've got multiple locations, blah, 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 blah. What's your highest spending client on a monthly basis?
4,500.
Okay, fine. Yeah, so you would just charge the 10% of ad spend, and you could do that above a certain amount. So it could be, so let's say you've got a base ad spend of £1,000, it could be 10% of everything above 1,000, for example. So you can establish that. Other agencies as well, like what we will do is we will do a scaling model. So it'll be 10% of ad spend up to, let's say for us, it's 10K, then 7.5 between 10 and 50, between 50 and 100, it's 5, and then 100 and 500, it's 4, and then 3. But the minimum we do is 3, and that's clients doing like millions on a month. So you can do that. But I think with your clients that you're working with at the moment, because the spend is even below 10K, 10% flat would make a lot of sense. You definitely need some kind of scalable model, whether it's a pay per lead or a percentage of ad spend. There needs to be some kind of scalable model based on the amount of work that you're doing for the client.
That makes sense. 100%.
Are you doing appointment setting for the clients, or just generating leads and sending them over to them?
Just generating leads.
Okay. So the next thing is a more difficult one, and I'd be interested to know if you've attempted to do this. You got to start getting into the habit of shaving the bottom 10% of your clients per quarter. I would review all of your clients, and you're going to do this with the data tracker as well, and truly assess which of the clients you spend the most time with, and then rank all of the clients based on who you're spending the most time with, but also then have the amount of money that you're spending. And you'll usually recognize that you'll have a couple of clients that are just not profitable for the business. They're taking a lot of time. You're barely charging them anything. Your profit margin is terrible on them. You then got to get into the habit of every quarter increasing the prices of the bottom 10% and being okay the fact that few of them will leave. Because as an agency, if you're trying to move more and more up market, if you're still holding on to older clients, it's like trying to run with an anchor behind you. They're pulling you back, they're taking your resource, they're taking your time, whilst you're trying to move towards clients that are paying you $2,000 a month, $3,000 a month, and move more up markets by increasing your prices effectively.
Yeah, no, of course, that makes sense. I think it's something I've struggled to do, to be fair, over the last few years. I think I've been a freelancer before this for so long that I've kind of got that freelancer mindset still, whereas like if they're on, why get rid of them and increase, why risk losing them by increasing it too much, sort of thing.
Have you tried to do so?
No, but the way you explain it makes sense.
Is that still your mentality? If you've got them, why risk losing them?
I think I'm losing that more, definitely.
Would you not say it's better to lose one $1,000 client in replacement for one $2,000 client?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, of course. So why not do that? Make it part of the business. And you have to do it. It's the only way to move forward, because $13K a month with 13 clients, that's a very hard business to run operationally, wearing so many hats across the entire business and presumably managing so many people yourself, which is why you haven't had the time for sales.
Yeah, it makes total sense, yeah.
Okay, cool. So month 2, we want to increase the client value. That is going to be introducing the lowest friction thing I would do is shave the bottom 10%, do this per quarter. And so you're going to do this through the things that you're going to do is immediately introduce a performance model. So 10% of ad spend. This is probably all you need to do alone in order to increase your client value and start moving to a place where you're closer to 2K, as well as just increasing the prices full stop. And so like off the back of this, like I would do a price review / increase anyway, just to assess which of your services are too cheap at the moment. If you're offering an SEO service for £750, but then you're also doing Google pay per click, you need to be pulling in a minimum of 1.5K in order to do that with a client. But really, you should be charging 2K a month for doing pay per click and SEO, especially if your clients are making a minimum of 30K a month in revenue. And so I would have a real hard think about whether or not you're just devaluing your services in general at the moment. And I would say with almost certainty you are across the services that you have.
Yeah, no, that sounds about right, to be fair.
I think month 3 at the moment, is going to be team focused. You've mentioned that one of your highest leverage things is getting an account manager in the business. And the thing is about getting an account manager right now, you're essentially getting one person in the business to manage all of those freelancers that you have in the company. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. And then your vision would be that you just focus on sales?
Yeah, exactly. The account manager would basically take up that sort of client communication to contractors, sort of, that's where a lot of my time's spent at the moment.
Okay. At 13K on 60% margins, give or take, you've got over 5K of profit in the business at the moment per month?
Yes, yeah, I'd say so.
Okay. And then could you afford to get a full-time account manager in from South Africa while still being able to sustain your life?
It put squeeze on, it put the pressure on, but yeah, I think that's what I've been thinking about.
Sometimes we need that squeeze and that pressure in order to do what's necessary to push through to the next level. Kind of the conversation I have all the time with agencies, like when we're backed into a corner and we've got capacity, and then we make shit happen. If you're already running ads and you're getting £120 cost per booked call, then you're weeks away from getting a couple of different new clients in. If you can be confident enough to state your new pricing with those new clients that you sign up as well, then you could be paying for that account manager within a week of you actually running those ads, depending on how much you're spending at the moment. And so I think an account manager does make sense. I think a South African hire you've already said you're hiring from South Africa, so I definitely think a South African hire would make the most sense. Obviously, those guys are going to be really great at communicating with your clients as well. The accent isn't thick, and that is something that's obviously really important. I don't think it's optimal the way that the agency is running, but having a series of freelancers at the moment. It's definitely not anything that I would recommend to any other agency. If I was speaking to anyone other than you, being in the industry for 3 or 4 years now, and you're offering the amount of services you're offering, I would say, the month one would be you need to get rid of 90% of your services and just focus on one of these things or two of these things. Because you've been in the space for so long, you've already had the team, you've got the freelancers in, you've got a good understanding. You obviously have the capability to manage that. And so I'm not going to recommend that you go ahead and do that. But just so you're aware, if this was any other agency, I would never recommend any agency below 25k a month to have any more than 2 or 3 services total. Your next step would then be transitioning those freelancers onto full-time employees. Okay, and it might not be those exact people, but it would be thinking about which is those core services. You mentioned Google Ads and SEO. Let's get someone full-time in who can do the Google Ads and the SEO, for example.
Yeah, definitely.
Does that align with what you've been thinking?
Yeah, it does.
I don't really believe that there's anything else that you need to do in order to get to the place where you want to get to in the agency. I think if you were to just throw shit at the wall for the next couple of weeks, there is going to be overlap. I've broken this down into months, but there's overlap in these things. And so the ideal situation is you get all of this done as soon as you possibly can. But getting on top of the numbers is definitely the number one priority. Testing the ads, doing the calls, doing the emails, tracking every single acquisition number. That is this could not be, this is the single most important thing on this whole thing. And then at the end of that month, focus on just one thing. So whatever period you decided, if you come to that conclusion sooner, great. Shave the bottom 10%, do that ASAP, introduce a performance model, 10% of ad spend on your ads, so Google ads and your meta ads. Give each service a value, okay? And then obviously you've got that mapped out, and then increase the average client value to £2,000. That's essential as a priority for all of the clients you sign even here. Attend an industry event, review all the services that are essential. Account manager definitely makes sense. If I were you, I would be looking to get that person in today. I'd be thinking, how can I get that person in right now? Get a LinkedIn job post out, have it connected to a type form, have £10 a day on that ad. You'll find a suitable person within 7 days of running that ad. $2,000 per month is what I would recommend. This is roughly what we would pay for a South African account manager. Actually, we would pay about 2,500, and then 1.5k minimum for that person. The thing is with South Africa is you pay 2,000, 2,500, you're going to get someone that's got perfect communication, that's already been an account manager at an agency, and you'll be confident that they can actually manage the team and do it. But you need to, in the position that you're in, you're at this point where I actually called it the margin dip phase. I spoke about this on an online webinar very recently. And this is the phase somewhere between 6 and 15k a month where you have to sacrifice your profit margins temporarily in order to transcend from this state of being essentially a freelancer to being an actual business owner. And that's when you remove yourself from the operations and the service delivery. I believe based on the structure you've got, one account manager could take you out of service delivery almost entirely, with you just handling client fires and taking the sales calls and managing the sales process, then transitioning those part-time contractors into full-time team with Google and SEO first. You want that pillar service that you've got, and then you've got the complementaries. But if Google and SEO is like that pillar package, then everything else can be complementary to that. But I'll be prioritizing that team member in there. Again, 1.5 to 2k a month from South Africa. Are we aligned here? Do we think this is what you need in order to hit 30k a month?
Yeah, 100%. Seeing this laid out, it feels so obvious, but it's not anything that I've kind of thought of. So yeah, 100% it does.
Do you want any clarity on how to execute on anything on screen right now?
No, I think it's all good. Like you said, I think the tracking all the acquisition numbers is going to be key. It's something I've never thought of, something I've never done. And yeah, you're right. I think a lot of my lag has come from not having confidence in what works to get new leads on.
Awesome. And the only place that I'm concerned from my end is that I'm are you going to implement this? Is this section here? Do you feel confident to increase your service value? Do you believe and you back your service to increase the value to £2,000 a month?
Yeah, 100% I do. And I think, it makes sense to have that scalable, introduce something scalable as well. That makes so much sense. The 10% of ad spend is something I'm going to do straight away.
In which case, I think we're pretty much there. I'm going to send you over this sheet. I'll send you over the agency data tracker, and I'll introduce you to Damien. And then if there's anything else you need in order to execute this, just let me know.
That's wicked. No, thank you so much, man.
Cool. No worries at all. Well, it's good to come full circle with you from the 50-minute agency. What we'll do is we'll reach out on a catch-up in 3 months' time from now, And so, as I said, I think you could actually execute on everything that we've gone through. We've broken it into months because it's nice and easy to understand. Let's not treat the next 3 months like the last 8. I think you could execute on this within a 60-day time frame and get to the place with all this stuff. You know, genuinely speaking, and I mean this, not to gas you up or to overhype, going from 13k to 30k in your position, I think you've got such a good foundation in order to do that. If you really put your mind to it, you could be at 30k a month very conservatively within the next 6 months. Very, very conservatively. I've seen agencies achieve far more and far less, like Nico from Dentology, which is another UK-based agency, went from 7.5k to 150k in a year. He went from 7.5k to 100k in 5 months. So 6-month goal, 30k a month from where you are now is a very, very conservatively. If you really push yourself for it, you could do it in 3 months, especially with your ads.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, 100%.
All right.
Awesome. I appreciate that so much. Cheers, Jordan.
No worries, Sue. All good.